I couldn't believe it. I remember I was sitting on the couch with my boyfriend, and I just like gasped, and he was like, "What?" And I was like, "Jamie Kloss was found alive."
Kimber Biggs felt joy when she heard Jamie Kloss had come home, and a deep aching pain.
When something like this happens, does that give you renewed hope?
Somewhat.
She has always hoped to see her own sister Mikelle walk back in the door.
How would you describe Mikelle?
She was perfect. She was funny and smart.
Mikelle was a 6th grade honors student in Mesa, Arizona, who played clarinet and wanted to be a Disney animator when she grew up.
She was amazing to be around.
It was the evening of January 2nd, 1999. Kimber, then 9, Mikelle, 11, were outside playing. Mikelle had Kimber's bike, as both waited for an ice cream truck.
Mikelle was riding my bike, and she was doing big circles. And I said, "Well, I'm cold, I'm going inside." You know, I crossed the street, and I remember I looked, I saw her riding, still doing big circles in the street, and that was the last time I saw her.
When Kimber went back outside, her bike was there, but Mikelle was gone. It took only 90 seconds.
The thing that sticks out most in my mind about that day is the bike in the road. You know, it was on its side, the tire was still spinning.
What followed was a blur of yellow ribbons and trees, cameras, and investigators questioning the 9-year-old.
I mean, it took 30 minutes for 1,000 people to be looking for her. And there was every news station and multiple police cars and people organizing search parties.
Abductions like Mikelle's are rare. Less than 1% of missing children are reported as having been abducted by a stranger.
This one immediately was different. From the get-go, it was different.
Mesa Police Detective Steve Berry, a patrol officer back then, joined the massive manhunt.
No one had seen anything. She just simply seemed to be gone without a trace.
Police will flood an area when a child is missing because they know the clock is ticking and it's ticking loudly.
Local print reporter Jim Walsh covered the story from the beginning and says investigators had very few leads and no physical evidence.
No one heard her cry? Call out?
No, I never heard of anybody actually seeing anything or hearing anything.
There's a reason they say Mikelle Biggs vanished into thin air, because it looks like she did.
Police questioned everyone in the neighborhood, starting with Mikelle's own father, Darian.
To my knowledge, they never named anybody a suspect, but they looked pretty hard at him. I think part of it was his personality. Darren was more of an aloof person. Didn't mean that he didn't feel it inside, but he was just a less demonstrative person.
But Darian Biggs was quickly cleared.
I was very angry. My heart was broken that my dad had to go through that on top of not having his little girl.
Investigators also questioned neighbors, including Dee Blaylock, who lived just 2 blocks away.
They knocked on his door, they spoke to him, they spoke to his wife. His wife gave an alibi to the effect that he was out in the garage watching the Cardinals game.
In an interview with a local news station, Blaylock appeared to be a law and order guy.
If you're my neighbor and I see that you're living next to me and I see something suspicious going on, I guarantee you, I'll be calling 911.
He was described as friendly and personable.
The police moved on and they kept looking.
And then on March 14, 2018, about 1,700 miles away, there was a glimmer of hope.
I was sitting at my desk one day when I got a phone call from a reporter in Wisconsin.
A dollar bill was turned into the Neenah, Wisconsin police by a man who said he found it in a stack of bills collected as payment for Girl Scout cookies. A child's scrawl on it caught his eye.
It said, "My name is Mikelle Biggs, kidnapped from Mesa, I'm alive."
Did that give you hope? Did you think, is this possible?
It kind of did for a moment. It was hope, but then also I felt shattered, like, God, if she is alive, what is she going through? But I remember looking at it and the fact that her name was misspelled. And the handwriting, it just didn't look like her handwriting. To me, it looked like someone trying to write like a child.
Why would someone do that?
I'm not sure. You know, there's some horrible people out there, and I deal with quite a few of them on a regular basis.
But what felt like a promising lead quickly turned into another frustrating dead end. In any case, Kimber feels she knows who took her sister. Nearly 2 years after Mikelle vanished,
And I see something
the
suspicious
neighbor who said
going
he
on.
knew nothing,
I
Dee
guarantee
Blaylock,
you.
was convicted of beating and raping a neighbor.
He allegedly made some comments while incarcerated in prison, tying back to this case. Needless to say, that stirred things up again.
Blaylock has repeatedly denied any involvement. There is no physical evidence to tie him to the crime.
That's what's one of the hardest things about this case. There's nothing to go on. And even though I do kind of feel that Dee Blaylock is responsible, you know, that's not good enough. I'm not gonna settle for, I think it's him.
January 2nd, 2019 marked 20 years since Mikelle Biggs was last seen, and Kimber is now the mother of a 6-year-old son.
Said, I'm a helicopter mom. If we're at the park and he goes behind the play structure, I get up so I can see him. I do not let him out of my sight.
In just 90 seconds, Kimber Biggs lost her sister and her childhood, and she still wants to know why.
I hope that she is alive and well and that we get her back. But, you know, then reality kicks in, and then I think, well, then my hopes need to just be that I know who took her and we find her body and give her, you know, the proper burial that she deserves.